The drama on Salt Lake City has gotten confusing, but I think I have it figured out. I have gathered plenty of evidence, and I believe I have a grasp on what actually happened, or for the most part, but before I break down Salt Lake City, I'm going to get into Orange County per usual. If you are new to the show, hello, welcome to She's Speaking with Emily Hanks. I'm Emily. I recap your favorite reality TV shows, and I go live on YouTube every Sunday at 10 a.m. PT to wrap up the week's entertainment news and to chat with my fellow messes. So subscribe, follow, like, comment, and let's get into it. So let's talk about this move Shannon made with showing Jen a very select portion of her conversation with Tamra about the background check. This was a bold and interesting move because all Tamra was going to do once this came out and once Jennifer confronted Tamra, etc., all Tamra was going to do is show the full conversation and then retaliate with something else. So Shannon isn't necessarily good at this game. She's not strategic enough. Like, know your enemy, know your opponent when you're going to do something like this. And so if she had been thinking this through, she probably wouldn't have shown that text. There was a way to do this. But it was from like 2 years ago. And then Tamra busts out something from last year or the reunion or whatever. And when two former besties turn on each other, they end up accidental collateral damage in the process, because it's really hard to, if you've been participating in this friendship and like you have definitely had opinions here and there on these sorts of things, it's really tricky to submit evidence that doesn't implicate you. It just is. Like, I think about that. If this were to happen to me and one of my close friends, and I would try to go to like someone we used to talk shit about and be like, see, I want to show you what they said about you. I feel like finding a conversation that I didn't participate in would be very hard. Finding a conversation where my former friend couldn't go, but you said this. I don't even know if it's possible. So this was a risky move from Shannon. But what did end up happening in her favor, if you will, is that then Tamra retaliates by hurting Gina. But being a good friend to Gina by bringing up the thing that Gina wouldn't want brought up on camera, and then getting upset and being like, I knew she'd blame me. It's like, because you're bringing it up right now. If you really wanted Gina to just know who Shannon really was and warn her or whatever, you could have just talked about this off camera completely, because you would know that she wouldn't want it brought up on camera. So then you become the bad guy in the process of doing this. Yes, Shannon was pretty messy and not smart to show this. And I feel like this has been a known thing about Shannon for quite some time, that Shannon does like to dig up dirt on people, and like the whole thing with Kelly Dodd, but then it's Kelly Dodd, so I don't know if I trust it. But like, Shannon's been accused of this by multiple people on the show throughout the years. So it's not something that's that absurd, but it's her acting like she had no part in it that's the problem when she's going to show what Tamra's done. And I'm sure there's a ton of ammunition she has on Tamra, but also like vice versa. You know? So it's just a risky move. But the thing also is, Tamra doesn't execute properly. And like, she doesn't respect Jen at all. Emily said it perfectly. When Tamra doesn't respect you, there are no boundaries, and she will go so low that it's too low. And you're like, well, now I don't care if this is a receipt against Shannon to prove whatever, that, you know, you're better than her or something. Now you've just made it worse again. So, you know what I mean? Another thing that happens when Tamra is just terrible in her execution and communicating and all that is that we're missing something that is kind of important. And Ryan being involved in a lawsuit where there was some HOA not building timeshares, but yet collecting money or whatever that was that Tamra brought up, that is shady. That doesn't sound great. And I don't know what to do with that, though, because at this point, I want to protect Jen. And it looks like next week for the finale, something comes up on camera. And I don't know what it is, actually. I actually don't know, because they're still together, Jen and Ryan, like as of now, going on fun vacations all the time. So they seem fine. But something's going to come out about Ryan next week on camera. But then when Tamra brings up that this was his connection, this person that was at her gym said, I can't believe he's even showing his face because he was involved in that lawsuit. It's like, that's not great. The lawsuit's not great. The problem is now we're so late into the season and Tamra has been such an asshole this whole time that I'm less inclined to listen to it. But it is valid. It's what, yeah, like we should be, that doesn't sound good at all. I thought it was a little nasty. First, Heather said something nice. She's like, she looked great. Jen's tummy, I had like little stomach envy. It looked so good. And Tamra's answer is good tummy tuck. And like, come on. You know, she clearly works it out too. I've seen many people that have had tummy tucks and it doesn't look that amazing. So let's give her some credit. Okay, so they all kind of go sort of separate ways. They get breakfast in different places. So Jen, Emily, Katie, they go get breakfast. And I was quite surprised that Emily was so vocally against Tamra, maybe, if you will. Because when Jen tells her that Tamra got the background check and she's furious, Emily's like, I don't blame you. And then she says the line about how Tamra doesn't respect someone, no boundaries. And so, sorry, Jen, but she clearly doesn't respect you or Ryan. So there are no boundaries. But then meanwhile, Heather, Gina, and Tamra go to this caviar place. And Gina says, I saw the text messages and, you know what, honestly, it's making me worry. Like, if you would do that to her, would you do that to me? And that will come up later. Well, as Tamra says back, are you a con man like him? Well, see, you aren't really helping this matter. But okay, whatever. It doesn't matter. We're going to keep going because the part of this scene that really is confusing to me is when Tamra decides to bring up what Katie said at her lunch when they had lunch with their daughters. I don't know if I said this already, but I'm fighting off a cold. I'm like barely making it. So I'm a little out of it and a little tired because I just want to like close my eyes and fall asleep. So if I'm talking a little weird and slow, I'm like out of it. I'm like, what? What was I saying? The Katie thing. So Tamra had this lunch was a while before this trip. And it's just interesting that now Tamra is busting it out like she's so disgusted by Katie all of a sudden. Meanwhile, that happened a bit ago, and you've seen her since and have not even mentioned this. So that's bizarre. But here's what happened, and it's weird. So Katie's daughter, what's her name? Kylie, babysat Shane and Emily's little twin boys. And Kylie claimed that the little boys said, Heather's mean to our mom. She's not nice. She yells at her or something like that. And Kylie was really excited to tell that story to Tamra. And Katie was really excited for her to tell that story on camera. And that's fucking weird. Because let's say this did happen. Let's say the boys did say, oh, Heather's mean or whatever. Why are you repeating it on camera? They're 8. They're 8 years old. And like her going and telling Katie like, oh yeah, her little boys were like, Heather's mean. Like, what does that prove? They're little boys. They're literally 8 years old. This doesn't mean anything, at all. But then it turns out when Tamra told Emily about it, Emily said that the boys were like, yeah, she said Heather's mean. And I'm also like, wait, That's also interesting. That why did they repeat that? Do they know who Heather is? I don't know. It's very fishy. Either way, it's very weird that Katie was like, yeah, bring it up on camera. Oh, yeah, this is good. What's good? That these 8-year-olds who barely know what Heather is are like saying this? Ugh. It's like right when I was like, Katie could totally come back. I'm like, that was a weird move. That was weird. I do still want her to come back. But that's a very strange thing to do. And I don't blame Heather in this moment. And I think even Gina, who has her issues with Heather, who I would like to say I give a lot of props to Gina. Gina has feuded with both these women, Tamra and Heather, in this very season, and she still shows up to lunch like, okay, fine. Like she's keeping it moving, and that's very impressive. She's earned her spot for sure. But Gina still, even though she's had her issues with Heather, understands why Heather's crying, because that's a weird feeling. It is a weird feeling that the kids were like, that a 19-year-old then went and talked to 8-year-olds about her. Ew, that's a weird kind of crazy thing to do. So, and then Tamra in her confessional has to own up to the fact that she was fully blaming Gina for bringing up the Heather stuff. Like she was like, oh, she told you to say that to Heather. She made you do that. She set you up. And now she's like, maybe it was Katie. Girl, get it right one time. All right, later they go to this etiquette dinner, which was, I mean, what the hell were they thinking? What in the actual fuck were they thinking? I usually don't get nervous when they get in these fights in public because I'm like, yeah, whatever, it's funny. But I was getting nervous. I don't know why. I was like, it's etiquette. They're going to get, I don't know why. It made me very uncomfortable. I was like, careful. But so, okay, they're going around, they're doing like, what was your, I don't know, pit or whatever. I couldn't remember what they were calling it, pit or something else about the trip, high and low of the trip. And Tamra goes, I mean, the pit is probably having Jen come to my room and yell at me about something that Shannon provoked. Sorry, this is just funny how Shannon's like, oh, you know what, Tamra? I'm done with your lies. You know what, Tamra? She always starts, you know what, Tamra? She always starts it with that. And it's not a lie. And it's kind of confusing to me that Shannon would be so like willing to double down on it when it's like there's going to be text proof that you, in fact, were like, no, we need to figure this out because I'm concerned that according to the text messages that Tamra posted, it looked like Leslie Bedore, David's wife at that time, was involved in a custody battle with her ex, and he was in that lawsuit with Ryan, something like that. And Shannon even says in it, I don't want my family to be blamed for this coming out or something like that. So Shannon was very much involved in it. I don't think Shannon really knew Jen all that well, though. Maybe. I don't know. So it's not as, let's say, bad because Tamra was really good friends with Jen and was doing all this shit. And it's not as bad for Shannon. For Shannon, I think it was more about the Leslie Bedore connection and her family connection. So it's still not great of Tamra, but like Shannon was involved in it. But then as this conversation goes back and forth, as soon as Tamra busts out, you're a liar and you're a drunk, it all stops. Because I think that was really cool of Gina to say, I would really like you to stop with the alcohol thing. And it was interesting to see Tamra like, okay, like not defensive, but maybe realizing like, yeah, that's probably not good. That's not good. It's not it doesn't help anything. It doesn't move the conversation forward. It's just mean. And it honestly, and I'm not saying this is what's happening, but when you're dealing with somebody that you really do think has an addiction like that, throwing it in their face like an insult, if anything, it makes them want to keep going out of like spite. It's just a really bad tactic all around. But then Tamra looks over to Jen and goes, why are you believing Shannon over me? I'm like, wow, bold question. Because I would think that's like walking right into it. I mean, why would she? At this point, you guys have had so many issues. You've been screaming about the FBI coming for Ryan. So I feel like that answers itself. Was that a rhetorical question? because I don't think we need an answer. I think we know the answer to that. Okay. But Jen she steps her pussy up here so good. Jen goes, have you talked about him being a boogie? You better watch your mouth. And then Tamra says, is he going to put a hit on me? And then Katie, the turn from Katie and Tamra, like just the episode before, they were in the spa together. But Katie goes, why would you say that? And Tamra's like, oh, okay, gang up on me. Well, that's flipped real quick. But then Heather goes, you're not doing yourself to Tamra. You're not doing yourself any favors by talking like that. And then Tamra goes, I apologized to Jen earlier. You did? When? And then this is how she goes. She goes, I am sorry that I had a conversation with my best friend back then. Okay, you're not apologizing, by the way. You're really not. This tone that you have, Tamara's on an apology tone. It's not. It's not a tone. It's a tone of defensiveness. I apologize that I had a conversation with my best friend. Okay, all right. But then she says to Gina and Heather, because they're like right in front of her, she goes, I'm not going to have her go and try to turn everybody against me. And they're like, she's not doing that. Gina's like, I'm not against you. No one's against you. We're just trying to get you to take responsibility for your side of things. That's all. Girl, that's it. And then Tamra looks at Jen and she goes, what would you like me to take responsibility for? Or something like that. And Jen just goes, I'm good. And then Tamra, oh, so we're good. Oh, no, we're not good. I'm saying shut your mouth. All right. Shut it. Get her, Jen. It's very well done. Very well executed. All right. Never did I think I would say that I have been rocking a triangle bralette all day, every day. I'm a heavy boobed person. The girls have never met a cute bralette that they listen to. But I got the Skims Fits Everybody collection triangle bralette. And let me just tell you right now, I don't have the uniboob. The straps are cute. I'm obsessed. I love it. Also, the underwear, guys. I actually don't like underwear. And I always size up in underwear because I just hate anything tugging and pinching. But I don't know how they do it. The underwear, it like hugs you. It's tight, but it's all over like the same. There's no pinch at the top. There's no like elastic feel. It almost has a shapewear feel to it, but it's not shapewear. It's just the way the fabric is woven together. I love the underwear. I get so sad when I have to wear non-Skims Fits Everybody collection underwear. I'm especially obsessed with the Fits Everybody boy short. I love those. The Fits Everybody collection is available in sizes extra, extra small to 4X. So you can shop now at skims.com. After you place your order, be sure to let them know I sent you. Select podcast in the survey and be sure to select She's Speaking in the drop-down menu that follows. Skims.com. Go check out the Fits Everybody collection, guys. We are finally getting into sweater weather, which is my favorite. That's why I am so excited to hear from one of our favorite sponsors, Jenny Kane. They are the experts in classic elevated wardrobe essentials, basically staples that make getting dressed effortless, but I'm talking timeless pieces. High quality. I have been wearing the cropped cashmere cocoon cardigan every day, even when it's a little too hot. I don't care. It's so chic, but so cozy. I always get asked, who makes that? Jenny Kane. I'm also eyeing the cashmere half zip. I'm sorry, that looks like I need it. It's cozy, but it's a good layer. You can dress it up, dress it down. I love a hoodie. Also, don't forget Jenny Kane's home essentials, timeless furniture pieces, cozy pillows, throws, perfectly curated decor, the most incredible candles, their scented candles, everything. And they have a really great rewards program where you can earn up to 10% back with every purchase. And it's free to join. So find your new uniform at jennykane.com. Our listeners get 15% off your first order when you use code SHESPEAKS at checkout. That's 15% off your first order at JENNIKAYNE.com. Promo code SHESPEAKS. Let getting dressed be one less thing to worry about. Embrace your fall aesthetic with Jenny Kane. Okay, back in the hotel, Heather actually does school Tamra pretty good. She goes, forget about Shannon for a second. You need to talk to Jen and take accountability. You haven't taken any accountability for your part in this. You have not specifically said, I am fucking sorry. I feel bad about what I did. I won't do it again. And then Tamra just goes, well, if I have the opportunity, I will. And she says, you make the opportunity tomorrow. All right. Okay. But then Tamra, because she couldn't wait, brings up that Shannon called her last year before the reunion and said, you need to get Taylor's husband involved and figure out if Gina pushed Travis down the stairs. And then Heather's like, what? Like, so disgusted by it. The problem with Tamra doing this is that she's literally bringing it up on camera. And I know she's thinking what she's doing is exposing Shannon, but she's just exposing herself and not realizing, like, no. Don't talk about it on camera. The only way, Tamra, you're able to execute this plan and be effective here is to talk to Gina off camera and say, look, I know you're close with Shannon right now, but this is the type of shit she does. So when she's trying to throw me under the bus, whatever. But by bringing it up on camera, now it's a thing. Now it's plastered on the screen with the headline that I vaguely remember seeing it, but honestly, I hadn't seen anything since. And I remember someone maybe even commenting on YouTube about how there was something in the press about this. But then we said, I believe the conversation I had with this person, we even said, but then now knowing that this ex is planting things and just kind of doing whatever she can to ruin stuff, then maybe now that's why we didn't hear any more about it. So now, yes, there you go, Tamra. You can prove that Shannon likes to dig shit up on people, but you bringing it up on camera, I know you think you're just going to retaliate like this and it's going to be a win for you, but it's going to be a lose situation. Something that also happened this episode where I am just baffled is Heather telling the group after Shannon went to bed, when they were like, let's all text our boyfriends and husbands. Oh, sorry, Shannon, you can text Archie, when she went to bed that night. Later, Heather told them the whole thing about how Shannon believes John heard the crash. And like, that was just a weird move. And her logic later, like when Shannon and Heather talk about it later, her logic didn't make sense to me either. It's like, well, Tamra knew, so I figured everyone knew. It's like, why though? Why would you assume that? That's going to be something that Shannon can like kind of hang her hat on. Like, what was the point? And when you realize that they didn't know and you were telling them, maybe you should have stopped. Like maybe when she was like, well, have you heard that whole thing about how she thinks John might have heard the crash? And they were like, what? You're like, oh shit, I don't think I was supposed to say anything. There you go. Done. It was a weird move, right? What a weird move. Why? That's bizarre. Then Shannon, her stomach issues get the best of her. And I shouldn't laugh, but she was in so much excruciating pain that she needed to get an enema sent to the room, which Katie volunteered to administer. And I was like, what? So while she's dealing with that, Tamra, Emily, and Heather are hanging before they all meet up for they're going to like a cafe or something. And see, this is where, again, okay, I'm cracking up at how sometimes when housewives bring stuff up on camera, like they have no choice and like it's so bad, yet they don't need to be bringing it up on camera at all. And this is one of those things where Emily reads the text from Gina saying that Shannon's sick and may not make it to dinner or whatever. And Tamara's like, well, probably because she feels bad. She knows she did something wrong and there's going to be some retaliation. And then what are you referring to? Then Tamara starts, 6 months ago, Shannon was digging up some information to bring up at the reunion. Now, just that right there, 6 months ago. So 6 months ago, Shannon brought this up off camera to you personally and to Taylor, and says that Taylor responded, my husband does not do this kind of digging, so don't involve us. But Shannon had asked Taylor's husband maybe to look into this whole thing with the pushing and the whatever, to bring it to the reunion, because if we forget, last season, Gina and Shannon were in quite a war, and it was Shannon's fault. Like, Shannon was doing some fucked up stuff to Gina. But the thing with Tamra doing this is she's got this look on her face like she doesn't want to be doing it. Like, it's so bad. I know 6 months ago, it's like, but you don't have to be bringing it up at all. And how do you not hear yourself as you're retaliating against Shannon? You're hurting Gina. Like, how do you not hear it? None of this has to be discussed this way. Because she's also thinking about the audience too. So she's like, I want this on camera so that the audience can get this information. But again, think of the impact it would have had if we got to the reunion and Gina said, actually, Tamra pulled me aside off camera to tell me, like, Shannon also was doing X, Y, and Z. And, that really was eye-opening. And it meant a lot that she didn't bring it up on camera. Wouldn't that have been... That would have been amazing. Tamra would have won so many points back. But instead, she's like, I don't know how this has gotten out, but Shannon was going to bring up the pushing down the stairs thing. It's like, but you're bringing it. Okay, whatever. So then we go to the dinner thing. First and foremost, Shannon, because Heather, it was very odd that Heather was like, you've got your back to me. What's wrong? Oh, Jesus. So she must have known, or a producer must have told her, Shannon's mad at you. So they go and they talk outside. And I don't really understand the logic here with Heather. She's like, I didn't know I wasn't supposed to tell anyone. Well, it's like, you said you wouldn't bring it to the group. So I kind of thought that's what you knew, Okay, I'm going to say one thing though, kind of on Heather's side, kind of. It is a little bit odd when Shannon it seems to be a pattern where she tells certain people certain things on camera sometimes, and then is upset when those things get shared. There is a lot of like secrecy for Shannon. A lot of like, secrecy. There's a bit of that, and not also understanding that what's the boundary, like where are we allowed to go. So fine, I'll give you that, Heather. However, this case in particular was clearly such a button that you pushed, talking about the Jeff Lewis show and saying how you felt used. And Shannon freaked out and was like, how could you bring this up? I brought this to you privately. Like, that already happened. So then the next night, you're going to go and tell them the rest of the story. I just don't understand why you did that. You had to have known that was going to be an issue. We didn't get the full context. Someone maybe asked her. We only saw the one part where Heather told them. I don't know if it was prompted. I'll have questions. I'm sure they'll be answered at the reunion. But it just was a really fucking weird move to do it. But meanwhile, inside, you got Tamra going, so, I was up all night long and I thought, what was Shannon's motivation? It was to turn Jen against me. Then Gina even says, I do think Shannon owes you an apology too, because like she presented that whole thing like she was innocent. But then Tamra's like, so if I tell you that she dug up information about you and consulted an attorney to find out if you threw Travis down the stairs, would you be upset about that? And you can see Gina's head all this is getting figured out at once. She's like, okay, but you're saying it now. Now it's on camera. I got to fucking answer this. And she goes, is that what happened? So this then opens up this whole can of worms here. Then Tamra stands up and gets in Gina's face, which Scott was very unnecessarily aggressive. I don't know why she had to get up and go, the reason I said that, whatever. But then Shannon comes in and Shannon denies it, obviously, and is like, you were just as involved in that whole thing. Tamra then says, though, that she wasn't even in the group when the article came out. So how would she have known to talk about it? But that's not proof that you didn't know about it. You were doing a podcast about these shows, and I'm sure you stayed abreast on what was going on with them. So that argument doesn't really hold water for me. Like, and also, even if an article came out before, you can find it still, Google. I don't know. That was just a really weak bit of evidence to prove that she wasn't guilty. But this is sort of my point with the besties trying to go for each other. It's next to impossible to bust out a receipt on the other without implicating yourself. Because then Gina's like, it doesn't matter. You had the conversation. You guys were having these conversations. Like, I hate to say this to both you, Shannon and Tamra, but you guys can't try to pull this shit with each other because you're kind of just as guilty and just as messy. But then Tamra always takes it to this really crazy, mean, aggressive, angry place. And Shannon's more of the crier, the freaker outer, the that kind of stuff. But then Tamra gets in your face and then she stands up at one point and gets close. She goes, "That's fucking bullshit." And then Shannon goes, get your face out of my. And then Shannon fucking leaves. Now, when Emily, I think it was on the Bravo HQ, the makeshift after show that they're doing for this season of Orange County. She was like, I felt so bad for Shannon because she went home by herself. She was in the airport by herself with all of her luggage, going on the plane by herself. It made me feel so sad for her. And that made me sad too. That made me very sad. That's a big choice for Shannon to say, I'm leaving. She looked like she literally was on her own as soon as she walked, she gave her mic pack. And as soon as she started walking away from the restaurant, she got an Uber back to the hotel and she packed up and that was it. It's a big deal. Shannon being like, me walking out this door, that is growth. I'm not going to allow toxic people to penetrate my life anymore. I just want to point out that Shannon has always walked out. Shannon has been walking out and getting away from cameras and saying fuck off to production and the cast many times. I'm running a compilation in my head right now. This is Shannon, she always does this. She always likes to walk away. They even say, she's always walking away. We don't want her to walk away. That's what Shannon does. The finale next week, I remember when Alexis, I don't know if you guys saw, but Alexis did an interview at one point where she said something about how John wasn't there to film. He wasn't getting mic'd up, but they're certainly making it seem like he is there. And that's crazy. But the finale looks good because what the fuck is it with the Ryan and the Jen and all that? I got to see that. But okay, guys, I'm fading. I don't think I can do a full recap of Salt Lake City. My throat is killing me right now, and I'm just my mind is not together. So in lieu of my Salt Lake City recap right now, I'm going to plug in some of a couple pieces of content. First, you're going to get my breakdown of how we got to where we are in Salt Lake City. Right after that, though, I'm going to play it's a TikTok or a reel from the account thebravobabe breaking down actually who first broke the story about Alibaba, Prism, whatever. After you hear those, I'm going to have a little message for you just to kind of clarify. Whitney is caught completely manufacturing this entire storyline. This is how we got here. So Heather went to Dana Wilkie with the information about Prism having Alibaba jewelry on it. Up and Adam follows Dana's Patreon, saw that she was going to release this whole story, calls Whitney and tells Whitney this is coming out. According to Up and Adam, Whitney said to him, I know it's Lisa, I just need the proof. So Whitney asks him to talk to Dana Wilkie and figure out who fed the story. In other words, give me proof that it's Lisa. Then this phone call happens. However, this isn't the actual time in filming where this phone call occurred. Dana Wilkie confirmed that Adam hadn't technically spoken to Dana yet at that point, but Adam admits that Whitney asked him to call because they needed this scene, this conversation for storyline. So he did, and that's a little bit messy. It's a little bit messy. Based on what Up and Adam has said, this conversation was pieced together to make it seem like he said Lisa Barlow is the one who fed this information to Dana Wilkie. He claims that he was looking into two things for Whitney. He was looking into who was running an Instagram account that was attacking Bobby, her daughter, and also the Alibaba Prism stuff. So then the question is to Adam, is Lisa the one behind that Instagram account? Because on this call, she says, Lisa's the only one in my group who has a liquor brand. And Adam says, yeah. So did they really Jimmy rig that together to make it seem like that's what he was saying? Regardless, he insists he made it very clear on the call that it was not Lisa Barlow who fed the information to Dana Wilkie, and that has been completely cut from the conversation. He made it very clear it is not Lisa Barlow. And the producers have decided to allow this storyline to play out like it is Lisa Barlow, and that's crazy. So when Whitney is confronting Lisa, saying she got confirmation, not true. She did not have at that point or ever confirmation that it was Lisa. Meanwhile, Heather is the one knowing she was the one who leaked it and lets Lisa get into all this mess while she sits back like, oh, what's happening over there? So when Heather was pretending she had never heard about this stuff when Meredith brought it up to her, she was blatantly lying and was hoping Meredith would bring it up to Whitney and so they could talk about it more on the show. But remember, she was like, what are you going to do? Maybe you should offer your help. Maybe she needs advice. Meanwhile, it was her who knew about it. So then on the after show, when Heather, knowing it was her, says, I didn't think it was Lisa because why would someone with a liquor brand be threatened by Prism? I would think that someone with a jewelry brand would be threatened. Like literally just trying to throw people off the scent of her at the expense of them. Meredith on the after show also said that the blogger, Up and Adam, contacted her as well to say, I told Whitney it was not Lisa Barlow, and I don't know why she's gone through with this whole storyline and filmed all these scenes as if I told her it was Lisa Barlow. So these two are the messy ones here.
Okay, so I literally cracked the code on who started the Whitney Rose Alibaba jewelry scandal, and it did not come from who you expect it to. On January 5th, Not Reasonable, Just Shady received a DM from one of their followers. So on January 5th, this account, who remains anonymous, DM'd Not Reasonable, Just Shady, saying that Whitney's jewelry was actually the same images used on AliExpress. In turn, the account posted the images and they tagged Bravo TV. The account says that Whitney Rose saw their Instagram story with the images. So on January 5th, Whitney Rose knew and saw this post. On the 19th of February is when Dana Wilkie posted her Patreon about the Whitney Rose jewelry scandal. But she was not the first to break the story. In fact, the story did not come from any of her sources. There is no housewife or anybody on the cast or crew that messaged Dana Wilkie and told her this information. Dana found out from the post just like Whitney Rose did. So let's talk about this phone call that Whitney Rose had with Up and Adam, who is a podcaster in the Bravo world. When he says that Dana told him, yes, it was somebody with an alcohol business that leaked her the images, that's just not true. So it's important to note that the scene when Heather tells Whitney about the rumors with Alibaba and her jewelry business, Whitney had already known this information because she had already seen this story posted on January 5th. So what I'm getting at is that we can clear all of the housewives, all of the cast and crew, production, whoever. Nobody was the one to leak the information to Dana Wilkie. Shout out to Not Reasonable, Just Shady for breaking the news on January 5th that sparked everything that's going on right now. Let me know if you have any questions, babes.
Okay, so now that you've heard from the Bravo Babe about how it was the Not Reasonable, Just Shady account that posted about the Prism Alibaba thing first. So then a lot of people were like, so wait, does that mean that like Dana Wilkie's lying and Adam's lying? And I'm going to get into my thoughts on that too. But I think what happened is most likely Heather saw this post by Not Reasonable, Just Shady and sent that to Dana Wilkie, because then Dana Wilkie would like take it and run with it. That makes sense to me. To me, it makes more sense that like a viewer of the show, a fan of the show, you know, the sleuths online are incredible. And it just makes more sense that they would have caught it as opposed to like another cast member who, you know, they're busy. I don't think that what that Bravo babe said in her clip and doesn't like exonerate Heather. It also really made sense to me that Heather would want Whitney to be taken down because she came for her book and everything this season before and all that. So, okay, I'm going to go lay down. I am going to go take all of my zinc and things and be better by tomorrow, because I'm going to bring you the Salt Lake City recap tomorrow in full. Okay. Stay healthy out there. Love you guys. Mean it. See you soon. Bye. So at the start of this season, Lisa tells Angie and Heather how she feels about Whitney. Angie tells Whitney what Lisa said, and Heather thinks that's not cool if you're Lisa's friend. Then after the fight between Angie and Lisa, Angie vents to Heather about her thoughts on things. And then Heather tells Lisa what Angie said, whilst still claiming she is friends with Angie. Lisa then tells Bronwyn how upset she is over what Angie said to Heather. Bronwyn then tells Angie, heads up, Lisa knows what you said. So then it's funny to watch Angie be mad at Heather for telling Lisa when she told Whitney what Lisa said and expects Lisa not to be upset about that. But Heather's also being such a hypocrite because you just got mad at Angie for doing that to Lisa, then you do it to Angie and then get mad at Bronwyn for doing what you did too. Heather's like, why are you coming in between friendships? What? You just told Lisa what Angie said, and now they are even more in a fight because of what you said. Loved how Bronwyn went. You think you're the head bitch in charge and you can control everyone's relationships. By the way, I love the way Bronwyn played this. I have no notes. I think she executed very, very well. So then we get to the after show. And Heather explains in all seriousness the difference between what Bronwyn did and what she did. And it's literally the exact same thing she did. She says, I would have told Lisa in front of Angie, but she was trying to figure out why there was this distance with her and Angie. And I've noticed it too. Lisa then went and confided in Bronwyn about how hurt she was, and that was Lisa trusting Bronwyn as a friend. Isn't that what Angie was doing with you when she was venting about Lisa? Heather continues, Bronwyn then took that information to Angie, which to me feels like an extra step of fuckery. Literally. What you did. Then she goes on about how Bronwyn wants me to think that she's cool and a woman of integrity, but everything else you tell me shows that you're kind of messy behind the scenes and you're pandering to everyone at a different angle, and that is eventually someone that I can't trust. Girl, literally you. Heather does all of those things she just said Bronwyn did, but then acts like she doesn't and then tattles on other people. But also Angie has to get a little bit of this too, because she's upset with Heather for doing kind of technically exactly what she did with Whitney, even though she wants to pretend like, I was actually just trying to get Whitney to apologize. So like, you kind of were doing the same thing. Like, Angie, you're being very messy. You're being messy too. Bronwyn came into her own this episode. The stuff that she had with Lisa felt a little like overly sensitive. I was like, uh-oh, where are we going with this? But she's actually like ready to fucking go. Thanks for tuning in to She's Speaking with Emily Hanks. This show is produced, hosted, and edited by me, Emily, and brought to you in partnership with Cloud 10 Media. If you are looking for bonus content, check out the Patreon. The link is in the description. To show some support, you can hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an episode. Another free way to support the pod, please rate and/or review on whatever platform you listen. It's free and it helps the algorithm or something. You could also head to buymeacoffee.com/shespeaks and buy me a coffee or two. Make sure you're following me on all social medias. I am She's Speaking with Emily Hanks across all platforms: Threads, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. That's it. Thank you guys. See you soon.